Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ali McConey. Now my next guest today is a guy called Pinky Donald, who's had an extraordinary life in Muay Thai. He's a real big pioneer in Australia for Muay Thai, and he's had an incredible journey to do with becoming a monk, battling addiction with Muay Thai, having beef with trainer Gay, and also learning how to become an Ajarn to tattoo Sak Yants. Let's get into the next episode. All right, mate, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure.
I'm so looking forward to this. You've had such an extraordinary life in Thailand itself. But let's go back to the start completely. Where does the nickname Pinky come from?
A little Willy. But seriously, I used to, in the really early days, I was in Koh Samui, I was at Lamai Gym, and I used to wear lots of pink. I've always liked pink ever since I was a little kid. Riding along, and some bar girl was like, "Pink man, where you go?" And literally, 3 or 4 days later, half the street was calling me Pink man as I'd ride past on the way to the gym. Then it got to the gym, and someone in the gym just shortened it to Pinky. That was 2006. So
it just stuck.
Yeah,
it just stuck completely.
And then I changed it legally. Now it's in my passport and license and stuff.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. The day and age that we live in now.
Yeah, man. Now, do you know the person who gave me the idea to do it was Nugget.
Okay.
Nugget McNaught. He was like, because his name's legally Nugget, and it used to be his nickname, and he was like, he goes, "Man, everyone knows you as Pinky. That's who you see yourself as. You introduce yourself as that. Why don't you just change it?" I'm like, "You're right." So I did that.
So you always get people, because my full name is Alistair.
Yeah.
But ever since I've been reception or kindergarten, it's always been Ali.
Yeah.
It's just easier for everybody to say it. So when I introduce myself to people, they're like Ali, are you from Iran or something? Are you a Muslim? What's going on? No, it's short for Alistair.
Not Ali, yeah.
But I couldn't change it. I mean, I've got to keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
But no, okay, cool. So that's where it came from. But how did you get started specifically in Muay Thai? Where did you grow up? Can you take us all the way back?
Yeah, so coincidentally, right now, last night when I arrived, I went straight and saw my original trainer's here in Thailand at the moment. It's the first time he's ever been to Thailand.
Okay, wait. So he's from Australia, right?
Yeah. So he's never been to Thailand before. He rocked up a few days ago. So they're over for the WMF games or whatever. It's I've known him since I was 6 years old. We were talking about that last night. He lived 2 doors down from my best friend when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And I used to be so scared of him as a kid and stuff. I never knew about the fighting stuff back then, but he just looked like Rambo and scared me. Big muscles and mullet. And then when I was 20, I was struggling with addiction and stuff. And a mate of mine was like, "You should come to training." I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" He goes, "I do 2 things." He does Muay Thai and Zendo Kai, which is a freestyle karate thing.
Just specifically, what kind of addictions were you dabbling in?
No one knew at the time, but I was using heroin, but alcohol as well. Alcohol and heroin were probably my 2 worst at that time, especially.
And how old were you at that particular time?
I was 20 then.
You were 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
The drug story goes on a fair way. It's started early, ended late. But man, I say to everyone, man, I wouldn't change it now. Now that I've come out the other side of it, I've been almost 10 years. July this year, I've been 10 years off of that, and I had long stints where I didn't use during my career, but 10 years without it, full stop, man, I feel amazing. Yeah. So I started this training. I rocked up and I hated myself. Living my whole life. No self-esteem. I never fit into a box. I still don't, clearly. But
I think that's what makes you.
Yeah, 100%. Now I own it. Yeah. Now I realise, when you're growing up, and I kind of feel that for my son, man, my son's my everything. He's my mini-me. But I also see that, he's that kid that doesn't fit into it like everyone else. And he's an outsider, and he gets bullied and all that sort of stuff, just like I did. One day he's going to be like, "Fuck you all, I'm me, and I'm going to own this shit." Like I did. And it changed everything. But when you're young, you want to fit in. And I didn't know what I had to do to fit in, so I just played up. And I was either escaping from reality or I was creating my own reality that I hope people will laugh at and stuff. And now, like you said, it's the thing that people like about me. Like, a lot of people that went to school with it bullied me and all that sort of stuff. As soon as school was over, most of them were cool. A few of them carried it on, and I sorted them out over time and whatever. But the majority of them now, they're like, man, it's sick what you're doing. Like, they're all stuck in their 9-to-5ers and all that sort of stuff, and I'm living the dream.
Let's put it all the way back to where you started with Muay Thai. So you started off, you're going through this unfortunate path of addiction, and then finally you sort of took a side road, and you ended up going into walk into the Muay Thai gym for the first time. What was that like? Can you talk us through that journey?
Yeah, so this mate of mine, he was telling me about it, and I go, which one? And back then, everyone called it Muay Thai. There was no such thing as Muay Thai back then. Everyone called it Muay Thai. And I go, which one do I do, Zendokai or Muay Thai? And he's like, definitely Muay Thai, it's cooler. Okay, sweet. I rock up to my first session, and I hadn't done exercise in 6 years. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and from the age of 14 to the age of 20, I did nothing. I wasn't active at all. Actively using drugs and alcohol, that was about it. And I rock up with this first session, and I walked out of there going, oh my God, this is, and it was like spinning this and jumping that, and it was hectic, you know. It was like, but it was all shit that I'd never done, and it was exercise. And I went home, and I was still living with my parents. Man, I based out of my parents' house for a long time because it allowed me to have the life that I was living with Muay Thai. I rock up home, and my mum was at the kitchen table, and I sat down. I'm like, Mum, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. But I'd said that about everything. I said I was in love with this girl, or I said I used to race cars. I used to have like a pretty fast street car that I used to drag race and stuff. And I was like, I'm going to be a drag racer. And then it's this, and then it's that. And then it was always something.
You're always chopping and changing.
Yeah. And I'd do it for a period of time, and I'd give it everything I did, everything to it. Whether growing up playing basketball, I knew every single NBA player's statistics. I knew all the local, like the NBL, which is the Australian League. I knew all their statistics. I knew who was in what team and what, and who was getting traded to. Like, I guess it's my autism. You know, it's my focus on my complete focus on.
It's the same thing with me and Muay Thai, man.
Yeah.
I know so much about it because I'm so interested.
Yeah, same.
In it, and that's where it just gets saved in my head.
Yeah, and I told her I was going to do it forever, and she's like, literally didn't even say anything, and I was like, she doesn't believe me, but I'm not surprised. Man, 20 whatever years later, I'm still going. But I used to stand there and smoke probably half a pack of cigarettes before going into a class. There was only a Monday class. They used to have the Zendokai first, and then the Muay Thai would start after it. And it was in a scout hall right near the airport in Adelaide, and I'd just stand there, smoke, go in and train. And then, man, it wasn't long. I was like, I'm in love with this shit. And then, so that was in August I started, and I did every Monday right through to like the New Year. And then New Year, fighter training was starting because Adelaide had, I think, 3 or 4 shows a year at the time. Very loosely put, it was Muay Thai. But fighter training started, and I was like, can I join in with this? And he's like, unless you're going to fight, no. I was like, okay, that's fair, you know, like, but I was also in that 6 months that I'd been, because obviously I knew my trainer Sam forever, since I was a kid. He always had a bit of a soft spot for me though, you know, so I think he kind of let me in to be just another number, another person to clinch, another person to spar, another person to, and I had a girlfriend at the time. We'd been together a long time, and she started going, well, you said you weren't interested in fighting or anything. Why are you training so much? I'm like, I feel good. Like, it's good for me, you know? And then she gave me the ultimatum, and I was like, all right, see ya.
Really? So she was like, it's either me or Muay Thai?
Yeah, it was kind of like if you're not, you know, if you're wanting to be a fighter, then it's not going to work with us.
I've had that conversation with a couple of.
Oh man, it's a pretty easy conversation for me.
It's easy. It's just like, all right.
Yeah. So we sat down. I mean, I loved her. I genuinely loved her. I think she was honestly my first love, and it was a toxic relationship though. Like, we drank too much, and we I was secretly, like, she lived 3 doors down from this mate of mine who took me to training for the first time. And so I'd say, I'm going home to bed now, and then I'd like walk down to his house and just start using drugs and drinking alcohol, and then next thing she's like, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and she wants to go out for the day, and I'm like, yeah, I still haven't slept. And
oh god.
Yeah, so it was a pretty toxic relationship. I say I was in love with her, but man, unless you love yourself, you can't love someone else. That's a genuine thing. So I probably didn't love her, but I relied on her. That's probably a better way of putting it.
So just going back to Muay Thai, when did you come to Thailand for the first time, and what was that like?
2005. I came on. Mark Castanini and Stefan Fox used to run the international kickboxer tours. So you'd fly over, do 1 day in Bangkok, and I trained at Imminent Air, and then we flew down to Samui.
Do you remember what Imminent Air was like when you first?
Yeah, it was still in the back. Like it was in the back. It was like tiered seating, like bleachers, with the ring in the middle, and then it was cool, man. It stunk. I couldn't believe that people actually trained there. You had to walk over a bridge over this like lake thing in their backyard, and then there's like the ring with the bleachers around it, and it just putrid, like a clong running directly behind it. I couldn't even imagine that was a thing.
And roughly, if you can remember, do you remember how many fighters they had there?
For some reason, I'm guessing we rocked up on a Sunday or something, because there wasn't many. I can't remember. I've got pictures of the dude. There was a Channel 7 champion there at the time. I can't remember his name, but I know now that like Satan Far, John Hord,
there's a couple of
Chalawan, Miao, the one that lived in Australia for years with Peasy. They were all there at the time. I didn't know. I knew nothing at the time.
They must have been like young kids as well.
Young.
Must have been young.
Yeah, so it was what, 19 years ago. So obviously those guys are mostly old now, but they were peaking there. They were doing their, the 19, 20-year-olds that are smashing it, right? So there was lots of superstars there. It wasn't long after that they moved to the front yard of the house. But it was cool, man. Like, and then that was my first taste of Muay Thai in Thailand. And then we flew down to Samui, and it was like Songkran. We did the whole Songkran thing, and I fell out of love with that very quickly. And we trained at Lamai Gym for 2 weeks, and then it got to like the end, and I'd kind of had the idea that I wouldn't go back
to Australia.
Yeah, like yet. And I ended up staying on after they left. And once the money ran out, I went back. It wasn't that long anyway. It was just, I was living it up. I was training every day. I was doing all the training stuff, but I was just, in between, I was doing stuff all day. I was buying this and I was buying that, and suitcases worth of junk to take back with me, like everyone does at the start.
All in Koh Samui, right?
In Samui, yeah. Then we came back to Bangkok, and is where I came back with them to Bangkok. We did all the final night stuff, and then the next day I just stayed in bed. And then that's when I moved to Rompo. I went to Rompo Gym for the first time, which is when they had the big Russian team there. There was like Arslan, Ramazan, Jabba, all those guys. It was pretty sick back then. I went there, I got sick like you do, you train too hard, you burn out. Everyone, I talk about it so much now with ease your way into it when you come to Thailand.
I think you said it perfectly on Joe's podcast, where you were like, drink more water. And I was listening to it and thinking, shit, I don't even think I drank enough. Not obviously during the session you drink it, but during the day, like now I'm trying to drink 3 litres of water a day, but back then I don't think I drank that much.
No, probably not.
Drink enough to have your electrolyte, have a little bit at breakfast, and then go chill for the rest of the day or whatever. I don't think I really emphasised I need to drink 3 litres of water between.
I didn't do any of that either back then. I didn't stretch. I did nothing. I trained, I smashed it, and then I'd go home. But I say now, I think the reason why I don't look like an old man and all messed up is because of how much water I drink. I think that's saved me over the years. And smashing heaps of water, sleeping properly, not trying to be a social butterfly during the day and all that sort of stuff. And don't treat sessions like you're training in your home country. It's so different training here. You don't have to smash it like that. Like people go balls to the wall. It's like they're trying to impress a Thai. Thais are never impressed with you. Just train.
I got it the other day from a guy from my gym, and he said, I'm getting my weight down at the moment. I'm going to start cutting my weight. I was like, mate, you're not even coming out here for another 3 or 4 months. Like, just don't think about it.
He'll be burnt out before he gets it, yeah.
Yeah, right. Just get fit. Just keep active, keep running, and it will come off when you get here.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
You get a lot of, but I've done it, and I'm sure you've done it. A lot of foreigners, they overthink it too much because you're trying to play catch up with the Thais, pretty much. So you've had about 44 Muay Thai fights, most of them in Thailand.
Oh man, and the way I had them was like, so I end of 2007, or say start of 2009, I had 13 fights, and from 2009 to when I retired, so March 2009 to when I retired I had my last fight in February 2012, and I had a 9-month break in there due to being sick from my chronic fatigue syndrome. I had 35 fights. So I think it works out 35 fights in 27 months or something, I think it was. Maybe not even that.
35 fights in 27 months. And then your fight, but where are you based particularly? At Rompo? Or?
No, so I left Rompo in 2007, so let's go back to that. So 2007, this is so confusing, it's like I was all over the shop. 2007, I went, the fight before I fought for the spot on the Contender, I fought in Macau. Mm-hmm. I was originally, I'm not sure if you remember Tam Matsua.
No.
So Matsua was like, he's a big name out of Lamai Gym, and he was WMC world champion, and he beat everyone, bro. Like beat like Wayne Parr, and beat all the guys in Australia. He used to fight all over the world, big boy. So I was originally talking about fighting him. He was just going to kill me. I wasn't that good. I will say it till the cows come home. I wasn't a very good fighter. I just had to go. And then they changed, and I ended up fighting some massive Chinese guy. Like, I was 73 kilos, ring and wear.
It was like that, right?
Not
like
height-wise.
No, I mean,
weight-wise. Yeah.
As in they were just, he was
81. He was 81 kilos.
You got stitched up, basically.
Yeah, he was 81 kilos, and I was 73. They did a weigh-in behind closed doors. Everyone got weighed in separately, and just the usual bullshit, you know. And I got absolutely flogged. But I'd had so many dramas with Peck leading up to that.
Peck from
Rompo.
From Rompo, yeah.
I had so many dramas with him. Like, I knew he was hooking me up a fight, but he was already taking a cut, and then he was cutting me 30% and all that sort of stuff.
So he was ripping more money out.
Yeah. And I was just like, in the end, I was like, you know what? Fuck him. So I had that fight. It was like 25,000 baht. I got paid, I just took off. Went to Sochilada, which years later ended up being like Windy Sport, and then Numpontep.
Where? Numpontep, okay, so where was that?
Behind Channel 3, Rama Ford, behind Channel 3.
Okay.
Yeah, down Soi Sansuk. Went there, which is where I met Amir, who was probably the biggest snake I've ever dealt with in my life. Like, he was like Peck's #1 student, but took it tenfold. Like, organizer, he rings me up and goes, I've got a fight for you. I'm like, yep, sweet. In Dubai. Cool. He goes, $900. And I'm like, okay. Then I found out it was a WMC show, so I rang Stefan Fox, and I was like, oh, so who's this? Who am I supposed to be fighting? He goes, oh, it's you, is it? He goes, you're meant to be fighting Fadi Meza. I'm like, I'm what? I go, for $900. He goes, what are you talking about? It's $2,500. So he was still going to cut me 30% on top of that.
On top of the 900.
On top of the 900, which he was getting $2,500 for it. Yeah. So that was, do you know? Man, I've totally ruined the story. That bit was actually 2009 when I'd come back after that comeback fight. 2007, I ended up going to a place, Bangkok Stadium. Rob Cox mentioned it on your potty, the one that used to be down by Rama 9.
I think so.
Yeah, so he mentioned that that was when he was first like doing a lot of the media stuff, and he was working there on a Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
It was Songchai Stadium. Songchai had it. So they had a gym out the back. Songchai wanted to open a gym, and it was with Tolly Makris, who ended up opening Elite Boxing.
Okay.
So 2007 when I left Rompo, I went to there, and it was out the back of the stadium, and that's where I met Crew Manop for the first time. And I was, it was my usual thing. I was struggling. I had no money.
Manop, who's got Manop Gym in Chiang Mai, and he helped out with Sanchai.
Yeah. So I'm flying up on Monday to see him. I'm seeing him tonight because he's at RWS with Somratami, but I'd already booked flights to go and surprise him up there on Monday, so I'm going up to Chiang Mai on Monday to see him.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
He's a man. I can honestly say, if I hadn't met him in 2007, I probably wouldn't have lasted to 2009 because of how much he supported me. Like, took me into the family, took me to all the things with the family, like the Nong Fa, his daughter was fighting, I'd go there and sit in the back of a ute and drive or pick up.
So it was like you were like his adopted son, basically. And
I will never not call him dad. Like, he's been dad ever since. Feed me every night, because he used to see me walk off and he's like, why don't you catch a taxi or something? I'm like, I don't have any money. Like, it's easier. My luxury was catching the MRT from Thailand Cultural Centre to Queen Silicat. That was my luxury.
Especially with the AC in it as well.
So it was either that or I'd catch a taxi to Ratchadar Road and then catch a bus. Or, on the really bad days, I walked the whole way. And that's a walk.
And for the people that are listening to this or watching it and haven't been to Thailand before, the buses in Thailand are not fun. Not a lot of them have AC, and then also
I'd only catch the red buses because they were cheap. It was $8.
And also you have there's that, but it's cheap for a reason. And they have no AC,
smoke,
sometimes they have fans, and sometimes you have to stand. They're crammed, and you have to deal with Bangkok traffic. So you're normally on that bus for hours.
Yeah, exactly.
To go not too far.
Yeah, so he saw me walk, he's like, what? And I told him I didn't have any money. He goes, I'll jump on the bike, I'll take you. So I'm expecting to get off at Rajadar, but keeps on going. We end up at his house in Hui Kwang and gets a big feast and we eat. And he's like, from now on, this is what you do every night.
That's great, man.
Oh, bro,
that's great.
This is what I say to people all the time. I'm like, Thai people will use you till the cows come home if you're usable. If you don't have anything to give, you'll either be shunned or you'll be loved like their own child.
Which is quite weird in a sense, but at the end of the day, that's how it works.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer, like I have a lot of adopted family, like I believe in that there's so much more to family than blood. And I get it, like it's a third world country, people don't want to waste their time on someone they're not going to gain anything out of. You know what I mean? Like I get that. It's a dog eat dog world when you're trying to get out of poverty. Not many people in this world have been as generous to me. There's one other person, aside from obviously the Thai family, like Luk Sai Kong Din family, there's one other person, which is Bo. She used to run Patong Stadium Gym, and she's the other one who would give me her last grain of rice back in the day. Like they've just helped me so much during 2006, 2007. You didn't have the social media thing to make money. You didn't have any other avenues. You fought or you worked on movies as an extra when they came around. I was lucky that I had a bit of a singing voice and I got to sing in pubs and clubs to make extra money.
Singing in English or in Thai?
Both. Yeah, so back to the Manop thing, like he was so generous to me, and then he gives me an MRT card and he's put 1,000 baht on it. And oh man, like
our guys go hard, man. I love the guy,
for
honestly.
sure. And I said to him, like, you don't have to do any of this, He goes, look, I get 5 call out. He's a locksmith. He goes, I get 5 call outs a night to go unlock people's doors, minimum. He goes, that's 500 baht each, on top of cutting keys and this and that and this and that.
So sorry, Manop used to be a locksmith.
Yeah. So his name's Ul, but it was Ul Kunjae. So Kunjae's
key. Yeah.
Yeah. So he used to have like on his soccer, like he used to play soccer, on his soccer shirt it was like Ul Kunjae written across the back and stuff. Yeah. So he was a locksmith. He used to, sometimes we're at the gym, he goes, I'll be back, and he'd run off and open someone's motorbike seat or something because they'd lock their keys in
brilliant.
it. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah, so he was quite well off for 2,500 to 4,000 baht a day as a Thai.
That's good.
Yeah, and he's an Isan boy. They're actually from Khon Kaen. Yeah, so he was so generous to me, man, and even to the point where I saw him last year, first time I'd seen him in a very long time. I saw him at RWS when Somlatsa fought at Ajarn, because I came over obviously for Ajarn. And he was shocked like when he saw me. And he says to me, this blew my mind. He goes, oh, what's your bank details? I'm like, oh, why? He goes, oh, because you sent me some money during COVID and I want to give it back to you. I'm making money now. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. I don't want shit from you.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that I could actually give you anything was great. Like, for me, it was special. Like, because at the time, Kim Johnson from Australia was training with him. So I just go, Kim, can I please put some money in your bank and you just draw it out and give it to him? Because he was struggling. There was like maybe 3 people there at the time. And, it's not big noting myself, but I had the money at the time and I wanted to help him, I
wanted to give back.
And I'm a big one for that, in Thai, what they call bun kun, like knowing what got you to where you are, knowing who got you to where you are. And so he helped me a lot during that time when I was just a broke-ass white boy. But that was the year when I realised, that's when I fell in love with Thailand, 2007. So I was coming towards where my fight career was over as such, but I was trying my best to be someone, and then I did my shoulder. My Muay Thai career was over in my eyes, but I had people like him, Songchai, Songchai's son, always had a really good relationship with him. I used to go and sit in Songchai's house at the table where they do all their meetings and stuff.
Songchai, the big promoter,
yeah,
right?
Songchai Latanasaban. So I used to go and sit at their house, because obviously I was at the stadium, that Bangkok stadium, every Saturday for the fights. We used to go in there for free because we were training out the back.
And hang on, so Manop used to work at that gym?
So he was never a trainer and stuff. He had a few fights when he was young, like not a lot, but he had a few fights when he was young. At that stage, he just played soccer, and his daughter trained with this dirty old pedo that used to train out of that gym. This guy was bad. Like, he ended up being with one of the fighters who was like 18 or something. He was like 67 or something. But at the time I didn't realise how bad he was until I remember once I saw him like trying to rub the girls down when they were losing weight and stuff. It was a bit too much, and I said something to him, and then that started a really rough relationship between me and him, which is why I ended up leaving. Mm-hmm. As I said earlier, if I don't like something, I just tell someone, right? And you don't really get away with that in Thailand with Thais.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't. It's a very slippery slope for all foreigners that are listening to this and want to stay out.
Yeah, shut up.
Here.
Thais are always right.
Yeah, just stay out. Like, if you want to have an argument with a foreigner, go for it. Yeah. But if it's a Thai, don't bother.
Even like if you're that way inclined, you want to box on with a foreigner, do so. But make sure when you hit that foreigner, he doesn't fall onto a Thai, because then someone's getting stabbed.
Yeah.
And
that's we're not exaggerating here.
No. So back in that day, like obviously the journey goes on from there. The trainer at Songchai Stadium was, I'm not sure if you know Yodbuangam Lukbanyay.
No.
He was like a mad female guy. Like he beat, the only people he lost to back in the day was Sanchai and Anawat. And he was making Anawat look like an absolute spaz for 4 rounds, then just got clipped, as he does. You know what I mean? Like, just put him to sleep. And he fought everyone. All that, there was Adachai, there was Bovi, everyone. That's obviously the silver era, right? That's the era when I was living here. Like all those guys. Then Nong was coming through, and Singdam, he beat Singdam, he beat Nong, he beat them all, and he retired really early and then became a trainer at this gym. Then Bangkok Stadium shut down, and he went back to Lukbanyai, and I was back in Australia for 3 months again. Came back and I went to Lukbanyai.
Lukbanyai is in I'm going to guess here, it's in Buriram, right?
No. Luke Banyai is a Southern-owned gym, but it's in Ratchada Soy 17.
Okay.
Do you know Poseidon?
Yes.
It's in behind there.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can...
me and Alfie Pierce have got a membership card to it.
Have you really?
No.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, that's actually pretty cool. I'll go with you. No, but yeah, so I ended up there for a little bit, but 2007 was still, they hated us. They hated the white boys. And I was the second ever foreigner to train there. So there was obviously the movie Chok D. I'm not sure if you've ever watched Chok D.
No, I haven't.
Oh, if you watch Chok D, that's at Luke Banyai, filmed at Luke Banyai. And old Joe, like Lung Joe, was actually the owner of it. He's in the movie and stuff. But there was only one other foreigner who trained there before me, and it was this really tall guy, can't remember his name, really tall French, I believe, southpaw, really like good knee fighter. And it was a very knee sort of based gym. You'd clinch for like an hour a day and that sort of stuff. So I ended up there for a little bit, but Joe loved me. And if Joe was around, everyone looked after me. But if Joe wasn't around, I was on the bag, and it was 10-minute rounds, and you're just stuck on the bag for as long as it takes. And then no one I'd go to drink the water, and someone would pull the bucket away from me. And it was rough. And I only rocked up there because Yod Buang Am took me there. And Yod Buang Am was like, man, sorry, I can't do anything about it. But it was, now I see a lot of those guys and they remember me and they're nice to me, which is cool, whatever.
Because you went through your rite of passage, basically.
Yeah, but it was like Sang Hilan, who was like a superstar, and he went to pro boxing. He was amazing. He won the VBA, I don't know, what is it? The Asian boxing. He was like Asian boxing champion and WBC Asian boxing champion, and then I can't remember a lot of the names now. There was lots of big names at that time, so that was 2007. Then I had that accidental comeback in 2009 where I got the 5-round fight where I went the distance, and then I just went balls to the wall. And I came back, that time I ended up being that's when I was at Sochit Lada. Yeah, that's where I was there. And there wasn't many of us. There was me, he had the Lukdam Sorplenchit as the trainer there. Great guy, so much fun. That's where I got because I used to be like a weirdly 6'2" Muay Mutt sort of style. Like I didn't punch so much, but I was a leg kicker. So just walk up on them, just wear everything they had. Like I had a concussion after every fight for my first, probably like 7 of my first 13 fights. And then he started doing all the femur stuff with me, and I was like, hang on, I'm really good at this. So that was sort of where I sort of practiced femur stuff for the rest of my career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so one of the things that you did, which is quite extraordinary, is you were a trainer out here for a long time. Can you talk about how that started and how you kind of got into it? Because I'm assuming that you started doing that because you wanted to stay here in a way when you finished fighting.
Do you know what was more? Because I started it before I finished fighting, and I started because I was sick of not eating. Like 2009, end of 2009 and stuff. I was eating once every 3 days. I had the street, which is where I stay now when I come over, which is where Muay Thai Academy is, Rompo Gym. I used to run up a bill with all the little restaurants along there, but I'd make sure I wouldn't eat more than once a day. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'd run up too much of a bill, I felt bad, I didn't want to have anything, so I would just not eat. And then when I'd get a fight or I'd do a couple of days on a set for a movie, I'd have enough money to pay everyone back and then be left with nothing again. Had a little stint where I stayed in the slums as well, just because it was free.
Whereabouts?
In Klong Thai.
In Klong Thai. What was that like? Because a couple of YouTubers and a friend of mine that's actually gone there and done a bit of content.
Who's that?
I think Mark Abbott's been there and done a tiny bit of content, and then Achilles Rally did a show there.
Yes.
So how the hell did you end up there?
Because that's where my gym was. So I ended up Galaxy Bok Penang, 96 Penang gym.
Yes. Okay.
So under the highway, full, like, it was the slums. It was shanties. The whole fight gym was just lean-tos, you know. And when I had no money, I knew a few of the people around the area, and they're like, well, just come and stay here. So it was only a short period of time, thank God, because the heat, like, I love the heat, but the heat in there at night time, no movement of air. It wasn't like you had a front and a back door. It was like one door that leads in to a bit of corrugated iron. So it was hot, and you got a fan just blowing hot air on you, and there's like 6 people wide in a room, wide enough for 5 people. So, you know, obviously bless the people that let me in and to stay with their family and stuff, but it was hard, and I was pretty happy to get out of there. So it was around that time that we mentioned, me and me were talking about Mustafa Abdullahi. He was doing PTs. So I don't know how it started. I think it was because his girlfriend went on to be his wife, ex-wife now. She was a PT over here. I'm pretty sure she started hooking him up with clients. And he goes, man, why don't you start doing PTs? I go, how do I even start? So he gave me 2 clients to start me off. And all of a sudden I had some money. I was like, oh, straight back into an apartment. Went back to an apartment, and you know, I had no air conditioning. I've never had air conditioning in Thailand living here until I started coming for these short trips. Always unair-conditioned rooms, stinking hot, never had hot water, none of it. I lived on the bones of my ass, you know. And I started doing these PTs, and then you're in the park. I was training people in the park. I had a set of pads, boom, 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 just working people, just business people, you know. They used to pay me good money. Started out where I used to charge 1,000 baht per hour, or a 10-pack for 9,000. Then I got to like 5 people. I was like, man, my time's a little bit more valuable now. So I started going 1,300, and then it was 10,000 for a 10-pack. I ended up, when I stopped doing PTs, so I left in 2014, so I stopped doing PTs just before I left. I was charged, it was 1,800 for individual, 1,500 for a 10-pack, like, so 15 grand for a 10-pack, or 39 grand for a 30-pack. So, man, I was making huge money. But that's kind of where I ended up in elite boxing. When I was heading towards the end of my career, Tolly, who was the one who originally invited me to, this story is so confusing, eh?
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, you with me? So who originally invited me to, he was working with one Songchai. So he's the one who invited me to Songchai Stadium. He's like, man, I'm opening elite boxing. Do you want to come there? He goes, do you want to, because I was still fighting at the time. He goes, do you want to be a fighter? He goes, I'll bring you in as a gym manager. I'm like, oh man, if you want. And so I left 96 Penang, where I had the most fights. I was fighting all the time. They were really good to me as well. The big boss loved me. The next guy down was Kraisawit Swangila Nongki, or whatever his name was. He was a superstar back in the day from Buriram. But his 2 brothers were in there as well. They were all partners in the gym. He hated me because I didn't have any money. But his brother loved me. Like his brother used to, like, I call him dad as well. Another one who just looked after me, you know. If I had a fight coming up, most of the time I wouldn't bother hitting pads. I was just bag rounds, clinching and bag rounds. That's all I did. Run, skip, clinch for an hour, then bag rounds for like 10-minute bag rounds, go home. And then sometimes I'm like, look man, I've got this fight coming up, and the gym owner was like, man, don't pay us. He goes, we're all right. If you can't afford it, don't pay us. But that's what Kraisawit hated about me. Me and Kraisawit are good now. Like we get along really well now, because I know the deal. I'm not offended. And so I just got to train there for free. He goes, if you got money, give it to us. If you don't, so I'd probably every, say 3 or 4 months, I'd try and rock in with like a 20 kilo sack of rice, because obviously all the boys are doing in the gym, they need to eat. So I'd try and do it that sort of way.
And that doesn't sound like a lot to people that are listening to this that haven't come to Thailand before, but doing things like that in Thailand really does go a long way.
It does, yeah. And it wasn't, I don't think it was enough to keep a lot of the people happy. Like, my phone got stolen a couple of times at the gym, because obviously they felt like I was a user or something, you know, so they wanted to get their money's worth. So my phone had been stolen, or this went missing, or this, or whatever. It is what it is. Like, at the time, it would break my heart every time it happened, because I thought, you know, I look at my gym as my family and stuff. So yeah, finished up there. I knew my career was pretty much over. I went and did a stint back in Australia over Christmas. It was my first trip back in like 3.5, 4 years.
And what was that like, going from Thailand? So you've obviously been over here doing all, like we were saying before, like with the border bouncing and the visa runs, 30 days you're stamping your passport again. And then in that time, because not a lot of people probably know this about you, but you speak Thai so damn well. And you've learned it. Yeah, it is.
I kind of beat myself up a little bit now. I don't think I'm as good as what I used to be.
No, you are good. It is good. And so you've had all of this Thailand for 4 years. What was it like going back to Adelaide?
So I did it like, I've always got a thing. I never tell anyone, like I tell very few people I'm coming. Obviously you knew I was coming, Joe knew I was coming. None of my Thai family know. Like, I'm just rocking up to their show tomorrow to surprise them. Because that's where I get my joy. Because it's like trying to go coming here is like going for a holiday home. It's not really a holiday, because I've got shit to do. I don't really put my feet up and have a good time. Obviously my life's a good time, but you know what I mean. So going back to Adelaide was the same. I was like, all right, I'll tell my parents, I'll tell my grandma. I couldn't afford to go back before that. And in the end, I still couldn't really afford it, but one of my PT clients goes, what about if I buy you flights home? I know how much you miss your grandma, and I'll pay for you to go home. And he goes, then I'm in credit for PTs. Okay. So this guy, another one who I owe a lot to, you know, he's a Argentinian guy. He lives in Florida now. Amazing guy. So he paid for this these flights for me to go home. I went back for 2 months. So I worked a lot while I was there. I was doing like PTs. I was doing, like I mentioned off air, I was doing lighting and sound for concerts and stuff. I was a driver.
You were just hustling. You were doing everything.
Yeah. So it was all under the same boss who I'd met in Thailand. I met him in Pattaya years ago, and he's a mate of mine now, and he looks after. I get people jobs through him all the time, try and help people out. But yeah, I went back, worked, tried to save up a little bit of money, spent some time off. It was fine going back. It was nice, because it was a surprise. It was like, where did you come from? Just rocking into the gym, and you know, it was pretty soon that I was doing the same old shit, going out to the same places, and it had worn really thin by the time I did come back. I was married here at the time as well, so the first time away from my wife, and she was very untrusting, so it was like
a lot of Thai.
Yeah, very insecure. Yeah, very insecure. And that's where I'm blessed now, man. My missus is the best. Like, are you going to Thailand? Yeah, no worries. Have a good time. I messaged her last night going, I miss you already, hey. She goes, have a good time. Like, what woman says that? You know what I mean? Like, let alone a Thai woman, an insecure Thai woman who... Because I understand Thai men are generally, you know...
But, hey, I'm just saying it.
I'm just saying.
Thai women are just as bad.
They are now, but it's the same all over the world, like where they're trying to catch up to what the men have always done, right? And I get that, but it sucks. And this 2 months, by the time I got to the end of the 2 months, man, I was ready to come back. I timed it that it was my cousin's wedding. He knew I was coming back. I was there for his wedding. I got to catch up with a lot of people. I was training. I almost had a fight while I was there as well. But when I got back, my gym had shut down, like Fight Club, where like Sam, my trainer was...
Our
gym was called Fight Club.
Adelaide, okay.
That started in like 2002 or something, 2001 maybe. Yeah, he'd shut down. If I was living in Australia at the time when it shut down, I would have bought it. I would have taken over. But yeah, he'd shut down, and so I started training at Flinders Uni Muay Thai with Alan Wong.
Yes.
Yeah. And another person, I owe so much to that man. Like, his guys cross-train at my gym, like on the days that Flinders isn't open, and I could never charge one of them to train because I'm giving back to Alan. And I have Alan's back on whatever he needs, anytime. So
I don't think you see, I mean, that's actually quite cool thing that happens, because where I'm from in England, so if I go, I'm from Shinkik Muay Thai. If I go train at George Jarvis's gym, if I go down for sparring at Lumpini Crawley, they don't charge me. Well, this was back when I was fighting over there, because I needed the sparring, man, because it's for people that are fighting right now, that are coming up, it's such a good idea to go to other gyms, go and spar with other people.
But not on your own back. This is where people go wrong. It's not up to you to decide that. And if your trainer is too overprotective to let you, to organise for you to go to other places, you're probably with the wrong trainer.
When you were out here, you were managing fighters and you were training people at Elite Fight Club, right? Which is, it's like an honour, isn't it?
So Elite Fight Club is Sukhumvit Soi 30/1. It's on the 10th floor of a nice apartment building.
And you were managing like foreigners and Thais.
So it started out as me managing the gym, and that was like just before I did that trip back to Australia that I was just mentioning. And then when I came back, he goes, "Look, do you just want to do all your PTs out of here, not pay me, not pay a cut, and just leave it at that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's perfect." Instead of being on 10,000 baht a month, and he goes, "Then you can do whatever you want. If you want to do some managing stuff, you can. You want to do this, you can." Tolly was so good to me, and he left. I think he left Thailand on bad terms and stuff with a lot of people, but that period of time, he made me rich. And he never took anything from me. He let me, I was still fighting at the time. So I had my last few fights out of there, man. People wouldn't know my dislike for Trainer Gay, but he trained me for my last few fights.
And why is that? Why
he's a bully.
Dislike him?
He's a bully and very insecure. He injures people. He's a bully. He's a bully. And
when you mean he injures people, what do you mean?
Man, broke one of the boys' elbows at the gym just from like being too. As soon as the camera on him or something violent, you've seen him, man, do the sweeps and all that sort of stuff. It's his ego, man, and he hurts a lot of people. And I think the more people, these big names they go and train with, they all start losing. He's not that good a trainer. He's just he's Insta famous. He hates me. I dislike him. And that's where I leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just putting it back to Elite Fight Club, what was it like? I mean, when you've been in Thailand, what was it like managing Thais, managing fighters? Because I've had Leo on before and I've asked him about it.
Hard.
It's not easy, but with Leo, what he really had is he made the connections early. So like with Num Noi, and Num Noi really opened a lot of doors for him.
For sure.
Was it similar with you?
So I think it's a very similar time frame as well with like Leo and me. Like me and Leo knew each other back then. My last 2 fights, I actually replaced him. He was injured. I jumped in his place in China.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're from like the same sort of generation. I found dealing with the Thais was always hard. I dealt with a lot of international promoters and that sort of stuff. And aside from that, I had a pretty good deal with just like the Phuket stadiums. I get good purses there for the fighters. I didn't have a lot of Thais I was managing. I had ones that I could hook up with fights and stuff, but I tried to stick to the foreigners more so. Also, the gym managed their own fighters. Like Elite Boxing had a good management team. They had an office there that was doing full-time promoting and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So we were putting on shows in Germany, Malaysia, Dubai, Thailand, and they had that was a full-time production going on. And I could then, Tolly, do you mind if I take so-and-so and send him over to this show? Yeah, go for it. Oh no, we've got something coming up, sorry, you can't have him. So the guys that were in the gym, I had contacts with Pet Yindi for the 8-man tournaments, like the Vigo tournaments and stuff. But a lot of it was China. I had a good contact in China where I'd send them for a month. I'd pay for all their visa, I'd do all that myself. Give me your passport, I'll go do your visa. Did their visa. I would then send them for a month. They'd have 4 fights in a month. And it was all on performance. Your first fight, you're only getting like 300 US. But then by the end of it, you could be getting 2,000 US if by that 4th fight, if you put on a good show. And they never cared if you won, because usually you didn't. It was a rip-off. But if you were entertaining, man, they'd keep. So I would take, at the time, the thing was, everyone had just gone to 40% purse cut for these managers. So all these guys that, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but everyone who was doing that back then, like there was, you know, we just had a lot of contact. You grabbed every fighter you'd inbox and go, oh, if you're looking for fights, let me know. And they were cutting 40%, and that was giving them nothing. It was crazy. And then a lot of them were, you know, they'd cut 30% maybe, but it was also cutting off the top end of the purse, like lying what the money that the purse was originally going to be. Whereas I was like 25% clean cut. That was all I did. There was never a secret. I had this tournament in Russia that I used to send people to in Kazan. It was a 16-man tournament. They'd go once a month. I had a Thai who got through to the semi-finals, and that was like 4,000 US. But still just doing lots of PTs. I mentioned to you off air that I was making 100,000 baht a month just off PTs.
And that's great money for a Thai, that's astronomical.
Astronomical.
But for a foreigner out here, like most of this, because like for people that don't know, I mean, I do English teaching full time, like out here at Thai school, and the going rate for that is between 30,000-40,000 baht a month.
Crazy. It was like 60 grand back when I was here.
And you get a work permit as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for you to earn that much, it was
nuts, but it was.
But you're doing what you love, bro.
Yeah, and what I didn't love was the 6 a.m. starts.
Yeah.
So I used to go to people's houses and stuff, but I'd wake up at 5:20 every day. My first PT was at 6, and then I'd go to the next one. I was done by 12 every day, finished by 12. Then I'd go home. I'd have lunch. I'd have a sleep for an hour. Then I'd go and do my own training. Or then when my career was over, I was just holding pads for fighters. Because I was doing this when I was still a fighter, but towards the end when it didn't really matter anyway. And the last 35 fights that I pumped out, man, I wasn't really invested in them as a fighter. I was
just fighting to live instead.
Nah, you know what? Yes, but also I wanted to learn. I was trying every time. My idea was I'll go in there with this one thing to do. I want to try it and see how I go. Okay, sweet, that worked. Okay, I'm not very good at that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that. So I understand it now. I understand how it works, but I can't do it myself. There's still a lot of things I explained to a class. I've never had good timing with like sweeps and stuff. Like if you step at me to take your leg as you're stepping in to get in the clinch, never. I'd probably break your ankle accidentally because you'd already planted. Whereas I can show people how to do it and then leave it up to them. Okay, I probably wouldn't bother doing that, mate. Yeah, you can do that. But you know, like, so
tweaking and finding what works for everyone.
Yeah,
everyone's different.
That's what I was doing for myself. I was trying all these new things I was learning because I'm a learn by sight guy. So I'd be in the gym and I'd be watching a Thai and I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that next fight. So I just practice that for like a week and then I'd go off and try it. And then I'd come back and I'd fight again a week later or 3 days later or 4 days later, and then I'd smash out 3 or 4 fights really close together, and then I'd have like a month off to recover.
So one thing that I really wanted to dig in with you today, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier, was how you're absolutely covered in Sak Yants. Your knowledge about Buddhism and Thai, and you said you stayed at Thai temples in Adelaide. Yeah. Have you stayed in Thai?
I've been a monk, yeah.
You've been a monk. Can you talk about that journey and all of that?
The reason I became a monk was actually, it was the year after I did that first trip back to Australia after the long stint. I was back there again, but just wasn't enjoying it. Wasn't having a good time. And I went and saw my grandma, and I was like, would you mind if you didn't get to hug me for the rest of this trip? And she's like, what do you mean? I go, I'm going to become a monk because you can't touch females. I'll think about becoming a monk. And she's like, whatever makes you happy. So I had a rat's tail that I'd had for like 13 years at the time. Grandma cut it off and I went and ordained. And I ordained in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't that long, but I lived in temples probably a total of 2 years.
But when you're a monk in particular, you have to agree to a certain amount of days, right? What is that? Because I don't really know.
There's no real minimum.
Okay.
But if you tell them how long you want to do it for and then you want to leave early, they generally will say no, because it shows that you need it. If you're struggling to last, then you probably need the time.
So what did you agree to the first time then?
I said 9 days, short stint, but I ended up 15. So I was only in Adelaide for like 4 weeks. So I wanted to stay on. Like, if I wasn't married, because I was still with that same ex-wife, and if I wasn't married at the time, I probably wouldn't have disrobed, hey. So it was actually one of the most amazing times of my life, aside from now, like with like my family and stuff. But it was, you know, you wake up in the morning, you do your chores around the place. I had the same path I swept. It was 100-metre path up around the back of the main chanting hall, and then back, and then it was morning. There was shower, morning chanting time, then food offerings.
But just going, because I go. I don't know if you must have seen it.
How amazing!
It's sick, eh? Great view from my condo.
Yeah, man. I've never been there.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
You should go, bro.
Yeah,
you should go. So, talk about the chanting in particular, because obviously, like, I've grown up in England, grown up around being in a church. Like, what is chanting in particular?
It's actually singing, kind of like singing almost like Buddhist teachings, I guess. A lot of the chanting is like paying respect to Buddha, and it's like saying, you know, I bow before you to da, but it's in like an ancient language.
It's in Sanskrit.
So the writing is Sanskrit. The spoken language is Pali. So Pali doesn't have a written language. So they use an ancient language, which they Kom is like this language. Mm-hmm. So this is all the chants, is what's all over my body. But it's written in Pasa Kom, like the Kom language, which is similar to Khmer writing. It's Khmer characters, but it's written spelt different. Things are spelt differently. It's more written like the Thai, where the Thais go around in a circle. Do you read Thai?
I can.
Yeah, so
I can read it.
So obviously it goes around the character, which is hard to explain, but Khmer just goes straight forward.
Okay.
Whereas this is still written like Thai, so it's around the Khmer characters. The chant, it's just paying, everything is, we're here to pay respect and know that, you know, we're going to die one day, and dying doesn't mean the end. Dying means you come back again. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so you a monk in Australia, right, at a Thai temple.
Yeah.
And then when you came back over here, you started, you know, did that kind of sort of start your journey on, you know, going to temples?
No, when I became the monk, I'd spent a lot of, like, I think I probably got worse after that. Like, as far as before I became a monk, I was doing the PT, starting at 6 a.m. every day. My wife at the time was studying at uni, and so she used to be on the computer every night, and so I was meditating. I'll just sit there and meditate 2 hours every night. And
mate, how? Because like for me, I've tried it and I can't even do it for 5 minutes.
Okay, look at this way, right? You rock into a gym, you're a smoker, you're a drinker. How much training are you going to get through?
Not a lot.
Okay, no different when you're polluting your brain with all this stuff, and you go to try and meditate. That's your fitness. It's your brain fitness. So you've got to start. And you know what, man? You might sit there. You might get 1 second out of 10 minutes where you've actually detached from everything.
And what are you actually trying to achieve when you meditate?
Total detachment from every thought. The focus on nothing but one thing. So that'll be your breath. You focus on the breath, and there's lots of different ways to do it. Whether you focus on like the air going in and out of your nose, you focus on your chest rising, but your mind can do two things at once. Can think of two things at once. So the best way to do it is like think about the breath, and then have a chant going. So they say put to, which means Buddha. Put on the in breath, to on the out breath. So that's your two focus points: the breath and the word.
Okay.
And man, all of a sudden this thought comes into your brain. And it's like, oh, hang on, I'm thinking about something that I shouldn't be thinking about now. Boop, go back to it. Go back to the breath.
Greg Wooten did a lot of it.
Yeah.
When in his career, he said to me, he used to go at shows, he used to go meditate for a bit.
Yeah.
Get his mind in the right place, stay focused. So when, like you mentioned it a second ago about all the Sak Yants you've had, like what's the story behind all of these, and how involved have you been with Sak Yants?
So my first one I got was in 2007, during that period of time where I was retired for 2 years. Just some I met a guy in 2006 who had some on his chest when I was fighting in Phuket, when I had that broken ankle against Chainoi Harpalang. I was like, oh, what's that? I go, do you get jail tattoos or something? He goes, no, they're done by monks. And then I remembered I'd seen it in that documentary, what was it called? Born for the Fight. It used to come out with the Ong Bak movie back in the day. It was like a little documentary, and they had Sak Yants on there. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that stuff, you know. And he goes, I go, where'd you get it done? He's like, oh, a place called Wat Bang Pra in Nakhon Pathom.
Yeah, I've fought there. I've fought that.
Yeah, no, cool. Because it's not far from Salia.
It's not far from Salia, not far from Kiat Von Tit.
Yeah.
And a couple of my friends have actually got tattoos there too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I tried finding that place one day, and my Thai was pretty average at the time. And instead of going to Nakhon Pathom, I went to Nakhon Phanom.
Oh,
so
God.
Like, total opposite end of the world. And I rock up and I'm like, at the bus station, I'm like, take me to Wat Bang Pra.
That's in
Isan.
Like
bordering.
Is in Isan.
Bordering Laos. And that was a good exploration. It was a good exploration, man. I had enough stuff for like a day trip. I ended up staying up there for 3 days, like, and I was like, "Where's Wat Bang Pra?" At the bus station, and I'll take me to Wat Bang Pra, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't drive that far." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "It's in Nakhon Pathom." I'm like, "Oh." So they ended up just taking me to a temple. I was just staying in a temple in Nakhon Phanom for like 3 days. Just went and stayed in some temple and talked to the monks for 3 days.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I've had a few of those mistakes over the years where I've just ended up in places where I probably shouldn't be, and it's just worked out cool. So then 2007, one of the maintenance guys at the building where I lived was like, I heard him talking about it. I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in getting something. He goes, all right, I've got the day off tomorrow. So we jumped on a bus. We jumped, oh man, it took us like 2.5 hours or something to get to this temple. And the Ajarn wasn't there. So Ajarn is master, for those who don't know. So I've never had a monk do any yant on me. I don't believe in it. I believe in that it should be like a lay person who is like a spiritual person. So he wasn't there, and so we were all the way back and then the next month when he had his day off, we went again, and this time we went to the temple. He wasn't there again. They're like, oh, he's at his house, but his house is not far, so we ended up going to his house. Got my first one done, and then I didn't get any done after that for ages. When I say ages, it was probably like a year or something. And I was at Bunsport one day, and I knew it wasn't too far from Ajarn. So I was like, I'm going to go and have a look at Ajarn. So I walked there while I was waiting for my order at Bunsport, and I told him who I was because a couple of my friends used to go there. And he's like, oh, at least you speak Thai. I'm like, them. And so I ended up just sitting there for like 4 hours, ended up then holding people's skin while they were getting yant done. I knew nothing at this stage. And then it got to the end of the day, he goes, do you want one? I'm like, no, it's all right. He goes, no, let's just do one. So he did a yant on me. And then I went back to Australia the next day, came back. It was once again, I think it was one of them three month sort of stints. I came back, and the first day I got back, I went straight to see him. And then it was just like, I was there every day.
And you just learned so much knowledge from him.
It started, he wouldn't teach me anything. And then Ajarn Matt Reed from Australia, he used to come and he goes, Ajarn was like, you know Matt can read this. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I can read it. Like, how? He goes, you read Thai, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you coming tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. So he brought me a book, which taught me the translation, like the characters. And Ajarn was like, start learning to read them. So I learned to read all the characters. And then one day he was like, doing like one really one. He goes, this means this. I'm like, okay. And then I was just there every day holding skin. Then I'd get at the end of the day, 30 people later, the same needle through everyone, the same bloody towel wiping everyone's blood off, and you go wash it off with water in between, and then you come back and do it again. I'd be like the 30th person. He goes, do you want some? I'm like, oh, up to you. And he'd do some more on me. Just that same needle through everyone. It was very different back then. And then he started teaching me little bits. I started seeing another Ajarn as well, who I still see. What do you mean he started teaching you?
Did he start teaching you how to do it?
No, like, so just like chants, little chants. Because each one has a blessing. Each yant has a blessing. Mm-hmm. And you got to learn those, the blessings. So he'd give me like chants, and then he would explain why something meant something. And I'd started seeing this other Ajarn, and he's like, "Oh, you read and write it. Why don't you become an Ajarn?" I'm like, "Because it's not up to me to decide, I guess. I can't, can I?" Like, and then once again, Nugget was the one person who said to me, he goes, "Man, you've had 2 Ajarns now tell you that you should. Why don't you just do it? Why don't you start studying it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, why not, eh?" So I started, and then it got where he'd give me something to take home. All right, you're going to learn this, learn that, then it's going to learn this, and then it's going to learn this, then it's going to learn this. And then it came to a Y Crew year where he's just like, and by this stage I had a full back, half sleeves, then little bits and pieces everywhere else, like a couple on my neck, and I never used to have anything that used to hang out of my shirt originally, and everything that was out of my shirt was all in white. I had white ink all here, and on my neck.
White ink?
White ink, yeah.
I've never seen anybody with white
Yeah, so you
ink.
can actually still see it.
Oh yeah,
in bits and pieces, yeah. So I used to be covered all here, and it looked cool.
It fades a lot though, eh?
Yeah. So if you're wanting to get Yant to look cool, then it's probably not for you. Like it's a lot bigger than...
When I got mine done, the guy was like, choose what you want. And the ones that I picked, so I got like a galliard on my back, and then I got 2 lions, one on either side, and then a compass in the middle.
Yeah.
And because obviously I got this done in 2015. Couldn't read Thai back then, but the translations that he had was, the lions mean this, the compass means like good luck in all directions. The lifelines for like strength and power, and I was like, these sound like things that I really resemble.
And this is like I talk about it all the time. If you want to know about Sak Yants and what they mean and stuff, speak to Ajarn Matt, because he translated everything into English to learn it. I learned it all in Thai. Like when I was living here, people can understand. When I lived here, I dreamt in Thai. I spoke Thai all day, every day. Like, I honestly I'd go back to Australia. This is not a word of a lie. I went back to Australia to work on that trip where I went back for the 2 months and I hadn't been back for a long time. People used to ask me where I was from, because I didn't speak like an Aussie. I had like a totally different voice.
It's the same thing, because I've heard this from John Wayne when he was living out here for such a long time. Like, he'd go back to Australia, work for a bit, be in a gym, start a sentence in English and finish it in Thai, and then but not realise it.
Yep. And if you watch, there's the video on elite boxing video of me. Like, if you just look up Pinky Muay Thai, there's a video the elite boxing did of me, and it's like a 13-minute little documentary thing. And if you hear me speak, you would never, if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't even know it was me. Like, I spoke proper English. There was no, hey, yeah, right? Like, I wasn't speaking with an Aussie accent, because everyone I spoke to in English, they were non-English speakers. I didn't hang out with Aussies, so I didn't get to speak Aussie,
You hung out with Thais.
Yeah, so I hung out with Thais, or I hung out with like my Argentinian friend, or it might be like a British friend.
So everybody, like pretty much everyone, the English wasn't their first language.
So I spoke English to them so they'd understand, like English.
So just pulling it back to the Sak Yants, can you do Sak Yants on people?
Yes.
So you can.
I've been like, I think it was 2016 maybe. I'd been back in Australia a couple of years, and I still would I didn't come to the Y Crew the first year. 2015 I did, so maybe 2015 it was.
Around the same time I got mine.
Yeah, so 2015 I came back from Y Crew, and then Ajarn Thai put up a picture of me doing Yant at the Y Crew, because I was already doing it. I was told I could do it from about 2014, 2013, and he put up a picture and it says like Ajarn Pinky, and that was the first time that it was ever like Ajarn, and I was like, whoa, like probably honestly one of the proudest moments of my life.
Yeah, especially from Ajarn
Thai, yeah.
Ajarn Thai.
Yeah. Hey, good. That was good. That was
thanks.
Good. Yeah.
So for people that don't know, Ajarn Thai is a very famous Ajarn for Sak Yants. His son actually tattooed my friend Andy Thrasher, Ajarn Ice. Yeah.
Thrasher, yeah.
You know Thrash?
I don't know him personally, but he was like,
I think you two would get on like a.
Yeah, I think so. I've heard we probably would.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great.
Actually, you know what I did? You know what? I met him in like 2007 or something. I did meet him back in that sort of era.
But just going back to the Sak Yants, so talk us through the process. So let's say I came to you today and said I want a Sak Yant. Like how does it work? Like, can you just go through?
Yeah, I normally, and I'll say I haven't been doing a lot because my back is pretty bad and I can't sit for long periods of time. But if people are wanting it, I ask them, what are they lacking in their life? What do you need? So it might be, you know, they're lacking
money,
money or drive, and when it's something like drive or focus, I believe that's love. That's self-love. They're lacking the self-compassion, the self-love that they need to move on, like to do things in life. So you'd go for something like, it's called metta mahaniyom, which is like health, love, well-being, that sort of thing, compassion. You'd give them something like that. But yeah, I generally ask them what they wanted. Some people come and say, I want this. And I kind of look at it like, all right, it's not really a shopping list, but I get it. You know, like you want something like that, that's fine. If a lot of people who come to me though, they just go, give me what you want. Like I've got one of my fighters, Panna, he's got a full back job from me and pretty much just doing his chest now. He has never once known what he's getting until after it was done. Yeah, which was my whole back. I'd look in the mirror, oh, that's what I got. Like, and most of my body, most of it was just like, give me whatever you want. But
when you're doing the Sak Yants, so for Panna, for example, how are you choosing the designs? I
know him. I know what he needs. I know what he's.
But if it's somebody that's just random,
that's why you have a bit of a chat with them. You generally go yacht first, and then you start a dialogue. You know, you start talking, and you soon figure out. Man, you can figure out pretty quickly what sort of person someone is. Okay. You know, like you might have that person who gets a little bit more emotional than someone else when they're getting the blessing, and it's like, this person needs this, you know, like, so then you know next time you might give them, and you talk about what they're into in life and what brought them to wanting Sak Yant originally, and you can soon figure people, and that's one of those things you also learn while learning Sak Yant. It's not just learning how to tattoo someone. You don't learn the tattoos and then learn the chants, the blessings and stuff. You learn the blessings, and then doing the tattoo bit's an afterthought, you know, like it's.
Okay, so it's more of it's more of a blessing, and then the Sak Yant is just to represent.
Yeah, for sure. Much. Yeah. So you learn all that other stuff first, and then you can learn the tattooing bit. Because the tattoo bit, man, it doesn't matter what something looks like. You look at all the old school stuff, man. I love it. Like if you saw my back, it's just dots, it's just blurred mess, you know. Like but that's to me is the ultimate beauty. All these you see these old Thai guys that sit on the side of the road wearing their pakoma, and they've got like something that looks like their 4-year-old kid drew a cat on their chest. I love that tiger on that chest.
Like Sayok, he's got that tiger on the front of his chest.
Yeah, that's pretty hectic,
Yeah. Sayok Pum Pum Learn. Okay, so just putting this to you now, in a really good place in Adelaide, like you mentioned it before, you've got your gym, which is called
Team Pinky Muay Thai.
It's probably like the like you said before, like the most authentic gym in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Going pretty strong at the moment.
Yeah, we're doing all right, man. Like as I've said a few times, your feelings are your problem, and I'm pretty happy to tell people if they're shit. And you know, some people, they think they're pretty awesome, and I'll tell them they're not. So you're not going to keep everyone happy. Mm-hmm. I'm not mainstream. So I'm never going to make the big bucks, but I survive off my gym, and I have people in my gym who I want to be there.
But listen, do you know what? I'm glad that you've come and done this today, because I applaud you, because you've gone and done, like, you've followed like your life. You haven't done the whole like, okay, I have to get a job, I have to get a 9 to 5. You've followed it.
Battled with my family hating me for it.
Yeah,
because I'm like just that straight down the line.
I mean, my family wasn't really too. I mean, they didn't hate me for it, but they weren't too keen on me coming out here and doing what I do.
Yeah, hate was probably a strong word for me, but for my family, but they didn't support anything.
It's not the norm though. No, it's not. What you've done, Pinky, is not the norm.
No,
bro.
It's not.
Like, I mean,
no, what you're doing isn't the norm either.
Yeah, exactly. It's not.
And I think it takes extraordinary people to do extraordinary things. No one who does normal shit is ever going to be extraordinary. And you know, when you die, do you want to be the dude that worked a 9 to 5 paying off his house and all that sort of crap, who probably was miserable for most of that time? Or do you want to be someone, like, I know when I die, people are going to go, remember that Pinky guy? Remember that Muay Thai guy, Pinky? Remember, you know, I know that's going to happen. And it's not about them, it's about me. Like, everything I do is about me, and about me being the best version of myself I can. Like, I've been, I'm no longer on the drugs. I haven't drank alcohol in 20 years. Alcohol was probably one of the worst things I ever did. I'd probably say alcohol was worse than heroin, to be honest. What it did to me as a human.
And then Muay Thai's replace that in a way.
See, that's another thing. People were like, when people are miserable or they're doing the wrong things, they're like, oh man, I just want to get addicted to Muay Thai now. I'm like, I don't want you to be addicted to Muay Thai. I want you to come and train Muay Thai because you're consciously thinking about going to train Muay Thai. Not just doing it because it's replacing something else. Because you'll never be the best version of yourself unless you're consciously making a decision to do something. I took a long time to get off the drugs. Like, I did a good stint when I first started fighting. Then when I met my wife that I mentioned earlier, like I was sober the whole time I was with her, but the day we broke up, straight back on it. And, I talked about it with Joe, I thought I was sober because I was living the good life, but I was doing it for something else other than myself. It's officially, July will be 10 years since I've been off it, and I think I did it at the right time. Like, it felt like I was about to lose every future opportunity I had if I didn't get sober. And it was the best thing I ever did.
So just going forward now, I mean, congratulations on that for being 10 years sober. Plans for the future? What's next for Pinky?
Man, I don't really have a lot of my goals, man. I want to have, I want guys fighting on RWS. I want some guys to come over here to live permanently, some of my students. I want to start running some amateur shows in Adelaide, which, man, I think that's what SA's biggest problem is. There's no top end because the bottom end is so over-celebrated. And
I think that's a great thing to do as well, to build up the level, build it all up.
Yeah, and I've got another mate right now who's putting on shows. Shout out to Paddy from Valley Muay Thai. Like, they're in like a showgrounds hall, like a country showgrounds hall, which is like shell grit floor, and there's no walkout songs. There's none of that stuff. You just jump in there, you have a fight, get out, the next one jumps in, and like what Muay Thai Victoria are doing, like the recipe of, you look at the top end in Victoria and it's amazing. Like the card, like this Roots card they've got on this weekend, man, it's off the hook, and most of them are Victorians, because they've gone through that pathway. And SA still has so many promotions that celebrate amateur wins way too much. People blow their load and they're done after 3 fights as an amateur because they won 3 amateur fights, and their trainer goes off and celebrates, and they're still wearing padding, bro. Like, I don't believe in any of that. Don't believe any of that should be celebrated. Wait till you go pro. Once you go pro, then you go, all right, no, let's make it flashy.
Celebrate.
Have a walkout song and be an entertainer. As an amateur, it's not your job. Your job is to get in there and get experience. But trainers also need to have that same mentality. Otherwise, it's going nowhere. Like, Adelaide is in an absolute shithole with their Muay Thai.
But if you start doing these amateur shows, maybe you can change that. Yeah,
there'll be a team. There's a few of us now. So if we do it, Paddy's doing it. Carly, who does Pride Fight Series, she's putting on amateurs. There's SA Muay Thai League. I think they do way too much of the flashy stuff still, though. But there's going to be a group of promoters doing it, and I won't do it myself. I won't have my promoter's license because the government won't give me one. But I'm happy to help. I've got someone else who's applying for one.
But you'll be a great ambassador for it.
Yeah. And that's my plan, is to just push that and get people having 10 fights a year, Get these amateurs having 10 fights a year where they're just racking it up. Their record doesn't matter. Then they go pro, they start back at 0, and then you can start doing all the cool shit.
Okay, well, do you want to plug anything? Like, how can people get hold of you?
Man, Team Pinky Muay Thai on Instagram is the best way to get me, man.
Got a YouTube channel as well?
Yes, Team Pinky Muay Thai on YouTube. I'm really trying to work on that at the moment, and obviously you want to get monetized, but it's a battle. Yeah,
but I mean, it's good for promoting your gym, promoting yourself.
Yeah, and I put a lot of this. I try and put out when I got pros coming up. I do a little docu-series leading up to it. I interview them and stuff, like in the 4 weeks leading up, because my fight preps are 4 weeks for the pros. I interview them leading up to it, then I'll do like a weight cut interview and a post-fight interview, that sort of stuff. Just trying to keep people aware of what's going on and
it's a good passion. It's a good rabbit hole to dive into. It's a good hobby to do, good passion to have as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and the think pinks I do, there's little tidbits of information of what you should and shouldn't be doing as a Muay Thai practitioner, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm learning how to do all this content stuff. I'm a tech tard. Like, I got no idea. So,
mate, sometimes I don't either. Sometimes I don't either. YouTube has been my teacher for a lot of this stuff. Yeah. But you'll get there, mate, eventually. And,
and I enjoy doing it.
If I can do anything to help, if you need help from me or Joe, just give us a shout or a message away. Well, Pinky, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Sorry
today,
for the
no, it's all right.
It's like tangents all over the shop, bro. But that's my life in general. It's just tangents, bro. So.
But yeah, no, thanks very much, mate. Wish you all the best for the future.
Cheers, bro. Thank you very much.